You ever notice how people will spend years dissecting red flags like it's their full-time job? Obsessively watching TikToks about twin flames, blaming everything on Mercury retrograde, cutting people off on Wednesdays, and crawling back by Thursday. Like there's some cosmic glitch to explain why they keep dating the same emotionally stunted man in different sneakers. And yet, the second you mention the word attachment style, they look at you like you just insulted their grandmother and kicked their dog. Because God forbid the issue isn't mystical or magical. It's that their nervous system is playing bumper cars with intimacy. No, it's not the universe testing you. It's not that you're a Leo who can't date a Scorpio. It's that you're emotionally addicted to people who can't give you what you need. And instead of facing that, you'd rather get a tarot reading and blame your inner child. But guess what? Your inner child isn't texting them back at 2 a.m. You are. This isn't astrology, this is neuroscience. And until you stop spiritualizing dysfunction and start understanding how attachment actually works, you're going to keep calling abandonment destiny and confusion chemistry. It's time to stop making excuses and start reading the manual, because love isn't supposed to feel like an unpaid internship in emotional labor, and you weren't born to beg. Welcome to your romantic autopsy. Attached is the book people should have read before swiping right 700 times and still ending up crying in the shower while Bruno Mars plays in the background. Written by Dr. Amir Levine, a neuroscientist and psychiatrist at Columbia University, and Rachel Heller, an academic turned relationship whisperer. Attached is a psychological grenade lobbed straight into the myths you've been fed about love, independence, and why your partner turns into a ghost every time you mention commitment. The central thesis? Your approach to relationships isn't just about personality, vibes, or being emotionally unavailable, because it sounds cool on Twitter. It's biology, it's neuroscience, it's attachment theory, and it means you've been playing the dating game with a rigged deck, and probably blaming yourself every time it blew up in your face. This video falls under the Fair Use Act for educational commentary. We're not here to plagiarize, we're here to confront, expose, and transform what this book offers. This isn't a cute little summary. This is a takedown of your delusions, backed by decades of science, dressed up in brutal honesty, and handed to you like a mirror. Levine and Heller argue that we're all biologically wired to seek emotional closeness, even if every self-help book, TikTok, healing coach, and emotionally constipated podcast bro tells you otherwise. That idea that you have to love yourself first before you can love someone else, yeah, that's not science. That's Instagram therapy, and it's keeping you single and spinning in trauma loops. The book shatters the myth of hyper-independence by showing that dependency, yes, gasp, actual emotional need, isn't a weakness. It's a feature, not a bug. You're wired to connect, not in a romantic comedy, soulmate, twin flame kind of way, but in a survival of the species, regulate each other's heart rate kind of way. So if you're ready to stop dating like an emotional landmine and start understanding what's really going on under the hood of your relationships, keep watching. Because what we're about to unpack, it's gonna sting, and that's a good thing. Welcome to Mindful Reads Hub. Let's get started. The hidden code of love. You ever notice how dating advice is either just be yourself or play hard to get? Either way, you're still alone on a Tuesday night wondering why someone you had great banter with now won't text back, even though they were totally into you just 48 hours ago. Here's the thing, you're not cursed, you're not broken, but you are running on outdated emotional software. Most people treat love like it's a fairy tale, when really it's more like a user manual written in invisible ink. And unless you know the code, the hidden language of attachment, you're going to keep misreading signals and blaming the plot when you should be updating the operating system. What Attached does right out of the gate is flip that script. It says, stop asking if they like you. Start asking if they can even love you properly. Romantic chaos isn't some quirky personality trait or some fate of the universe astrology mix-up. It's the result of patterns baked into your nervous system long before you ever opened a dating app. That panic you feel when someone doesn't text back, that drop in your stomach when someone gets too close, it's not your personality, it's your programming. Dr. Amir Levine and Rachel Heller crack open this very premise that how we attach as adults mirrors, with terrifying accuracy, how we learned to connect as children. 3 core styles are identified: secure, anxious, and avoidant. They're not buzzwords, they're behavioral blueprints. They determine how you love, how you fight, how you fall apart, and how, or if, you recover. Take Tamara. Smart, competent, emotionally intelligent, the kind of woman your mom wishes you'd date. But when she met Greg, she turned into a puddle of anxious energy, waiting for texts, rearranging her life, checking her phone like it was a life support machine. And Greg, the charismatic but distant type who gives you just enough to keep you hanging, a walking breadcrumb trail of mixed signals. If you've dated a Greg, you already know this ride: emotional whiplash with a side of existential dread. At face value, their problems seemed unique, deep, maybe even spiritual, but attachment theory says, nah, these are textbook. Tamara's anxiety wasn't some character flaw, it was her activated attachment system on full blast. And Greg, avoidant to his core. Not because he was evil, not because he was emotionally damaged, but because closeness felt like drowning to his nervous system. Now, here's where the book slaps. It doesn't say, fix yourself and you'll attract better people. It says, understand yourself, not just what hurts you, but why you chase people who activate your wounds. Most dating rules teach manipulation. Attachment science teaches clarity. It teaches you that love isn't just about chemistry, it's about compatibility in emotional wiring. If you're anxious, a secure partner is your medicine. If you're avoidant, well, we'll get to that. And no, this isn't about living in the past. Knowing your attachment style isn't a therapy buzzword to justify your chaos. It's a flashlight, a map, a mirror. Most people walk into love blindfolded and call it fate when they hit a wall. This book hands you the damn torch. Understanding your style, truly, not just cosplaying introspection, changes the entire equation. You stop personalizing ghosting. You stop falling for people who make you question your worth. You learn to recognize mixed signals not as mystery, but as mayday. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's where the transformation starts. The authors don't just offer theory, they hand you tools. There's a quiz to determine your own attachment style based on 2 key dimensions: your comfort with intimacy and your anxiety about abandonment. Are you the clingy one, the avoidant ghoster, the unicorn secure? You're not just picking a label, you're decoding your own damn operating system. And if you think this sounds too clinical, let me remind you, understanding this might be the difference between a decade of toxic spirals and finally being in a relationship that doesn't feel like you're playing emotional Jenga. You can't love well if you don't even know what love feels like to your own nervous system. Attachment style is the single most predictive variable in how your relationships function. It's not your taste in movies. It's not your star sign. It's whether your emotional GPS is wired to seek safety or drama disguised as passion. Key takeaway: love isn't random, it's strategic, and your attachment style is the script you've been unconsciously following. Learn the code or keep crashing the system. Favorite quote: understanding attachment will change the way you perceive new people you meet, but it will also give you surprising insight into your partner if you are already in a relationship. Dependency isn't a dirty word. You know what's wild? We live in a society where needing someone is treated like having spinach in your teeth, embarrassing, shameful, and everyone pretends they don't see it while secretly judging the hell out of you. You should be enough for yourself, they chant, as if loving another human being is some kind of moral failure. Oh, you wanted your boyfriend to call you back after disappearing for 2 days? You must be clingy. You asked your girlfriend to include you in future plans? Desperate. Meanwhile, the people judging you are over here sending good morning texts to people who left them on red last week. The hypocrisy is Olympic level. Let's get something straight. Needing connection isn't weakness, it's biology. The whole strong, independent, emotionally bulletproof thing, that's not how humans are built. You're not a Wi-Fi signal. You don't need to be strongest alone. You're a human being. You're wired to regulate your emotions through connection. That's not codependency. It's literally how your nervous system stays balanced. Pretending otherwise is like putting a band-aid on a bullet wound and calling it self-care. In Attached, the authors throw a Molotov cocktail at the myth of independence. One of the most enlightening and infuriating points is the dependency paradox. The more securely we can rely on our partners, the more independent we become. Sounds backwards, right? But this is where the science drops the mic. When you feel secure in your connection, you're free to be bold, take risks, go for the promotion, chase the dream, because your emotional system isn't running on panic mode. But when your partner is inconsistent or distant, your emotional bandwidth is spent on damage control, not growth. That's not independence, that's survival mode in skinny jeans. The book uses the example of Karen and Tim, a reality show couple who were good-looking, high-functioning, and completely mismatched when it came to emotional needs. Karen wanted reassurance, Tim wanted space. Karen blamed herself for being too needy. But here's the kicker. Science says she wasn't too much. She just needed what her brain was wired to crave: proximity, safety, connection. Tim, on the other hand, was so allergic to closeness that even holding her hand during stress made him feel like he was being swallowed whole. Spoiler alert, they didn't win the race or the relationship. But this isn't just about couples on TV. It's about you. It's about how many times you've told yourself, I shouldn't need this, instead of asking, why doesn't this person want to meet that need? Most of us have been Karen at some point, gaslighting ourselves out of basic human needs because society told us needing someone is weakness. But the truth? Most people are only as needy as their unmet needs. When those needs are met early and consistently, we don't spiral, we thrive. And before you even think about saying, but what if I just attract emotionally unavailable people? No. The real question is, why do you keep investing in people who are allergic to intimacy and calling it fate instead of recognizing your pattern? If someone flinches every time you get close, that's not mysterious, that's maladaptive. You're not building a relationship, you're running emotional obstacle courses for people who haven't done the bare minimum. The book doesn't just show how dependency is hardwired, it shows you how to identify whether the person you're dating has the capacity to be a secure partner. Want to know your partner's style? Don't bother with another late-night DMC or deep dive into their childhood trauma. Watch their behavior. Are they consistent? Do they listen when you express a need? Do they make space for you emotionally without making you feel guilty about it? Because words are cute, but patterns are everything. The authors break down the red flags disguised as quirks, avoidance dressed up as independence, inconsistency sold as busy, coldness packaged as stoicism. If your partner disappears when things get too close or uses needing space as a get out of emotional jail free card, congratulations, you're dating someone who treats intimacy like a bear trap. You are not the problem, but staying with someone who punishes your need for closeness, that's on you. And here's where things get uncomfortable, because if your needs are constantly being minimized, ignored, or dismissed, the issue isn't your needs. It's the person you're relying on to meet them. Attachment theory isn't just a relationship decoder, it's a wake-up call. Stop trying to earn what should be freely given. If your relationship feels like a test, you're always about to fail, that's not love, that's emotional roulette. And yes, the world will tell you to suck it up, to love yourself more, to be a whole person before you enter a relationship. But they are wrong. You don't become whole in isolation. You become whole through secure, responsive, reliable connections. That's what this book teaches, not just how to spot healthy love, but how to stop settling for emotional starvation just because you think it's all you deserve. Key takeaway: real strength isn't found in disconnection, it's in choosing the right person to depend on. The more secure the connection, the braver you become. Independence isn't the absence of need, it's the result of needs being met. Favorite quote: if you want to take the road to independence and happiness, find the right person to depend on and travel down it with that person. The anxious-avoidant trap. You ever try dating someone who makes you feel like you're constantly auditioning for the role of person they might consider loving if they ever recover from their last situationship? the kind of person who throws you crumbs of affection just long enough to keep you hooked, and then pulls away so fast you're left questioning whether any of it was real. That, my friend, is not romance. That's trauma reenactment on a loop. And here's the truth most people don't want to admit. You don't need therapy, you need a restraining order from your attachment style. Let's talk about the toxic dance that is the anxious-avoidant trap, where one person is dying for closeness and the other treats emotional intimacy like a contagious disease. This isn't Romeo and Juliet. This is a psychological booby trap where each partner becomes the worst version of themselves while clinging to the fantasy that things will magically change. The science is brutal and honest. One partner's need for intimacy triggers the other's need for space, and just like that, the cycle begins. The anxious one sends that "just checking in" text. You know, the one they agonized over for 45 minutes. The avoidant partner sees it, gets triggered, and suddenly needs to focus on themselves for the weekend. That withdrawal only sends the anxious partner into overdrive, triggering protest behavior like silent treatments, ultimatums, and of course the age-old classic, threatening to leave, but never actually leaving. This isn't passion, it's a feedback loop of mutual self-sabotage. In the book, we meet people like Naomi and Kevin, trapped in this emotional limbo. Naomi needs reassurance, Kevin needs space. Naomi calls to connect. Kevin screens her calls. Naomi questions his behavior. Kevin calls her jealous. Sound familiar? If you're constantly being told you're too sensitive or always overreacting, you might not be crazy. You might just be dating someone whose entire identity is built on avoiding accountability. And here's where it gets even more twisted. You might love them for it. That's the trap. The anxious partner gets temporary highs from the rare moments of closeness, a text, a hug, a shared laugh, and then confuses those fleeting scraps with genuine connection. Meanwhile, the avoidant partner builds a sense of control and superiority by being the one who withholds affection. It's the emotional version of Stockholm Syndrome, except both people are simultaneously hostage and captor. The authors explain this using simple biology. When your attachment system is activated, your brain is screaming, "Find safety." For the anxious person, that means clinging. For the avoidant, that means running. One needs proximity to feel safe. The other needs distance to feel in control. Now imagine this loop happening over and over again, day after day, month after month, and yet we call this love. Let's be clear. Love does not feel like a survival strategy. If your relationship is a revolving door of intensity and withdrawal, it's not that you're bad at love, it's that you've mistaken anxiety for passion, and society isn't helping. Movies romanticize the chase. Pop culture tells you that if it's hard, it must be worth it. But science says otherwise. A healthy relationship isn't supposed to feel like an unpaid internship where you're constantly proving your worth. It's supposed to feel like a secure base, one where you're not in fight or flight 24/7. The book outlines the telltale signs of this trap: rollercoaster highs and lows, endless fights about nothing, stable instability, and worst of all, becoming the enemy simply because you're in the inner circle. The anxious partner gets punished for being close, while the avoidant partner gets to maintain distance and pretend they're the emotionally evolved one. Spoiler, they're not. They're just emotionally dehydrated and calling it independence. Now, let's get real. Can this dynamic be fixed? Maybe. But only if both people stop lying to themselves. The anxious person needs to stop calling desperation loyalty, and the avoidant person needs to stop calling emotional detachment boundaries. If both partners are willing to work on their patterns, there's hope. But if one or both are emotionally unavailable and proud of it, then what you've got isn't a relationship, it's a time bomb. And here's the gut punch the book delivers. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is leave, not because you don't care, but because staying means slowly dissolving your self-worth in the acid of emotional inconsistency. Some people aren't meant to be fixed. Some dynamics are only meant to be understood and then escaped. So if you're currently stuck in this loop, here's the uncomfortable truth. They're not going to suddenly wake up and love you better. Your needs aren't too much. Their capacity is too little. Stop trying to become smaller so they'll stay. Start demanding partnerships that don't require you to perform emotional gymnastics to feel seen. Key takeaway: passion isn't panic. If your relationship constantly activates your attachment system, you're not in love. You're in survival mode. Real love feels safe, consistent, and boring in the best way possible. Favorite quote: an activated attachment system is not passionate love. Next time you date someone and find yourself feeling anxious, insecure, and obsessive, only to feel elated every once in a while, tell yourself this is most likely an activated attachment system and not love. Secure, anxious, avoidant. You ever notice how the people who call everyone else too emotional are the same ones who panic if you ask where the relationship is going? The same people who act like saying "I miss you" is a felony. These are the folks who think intimacy is some kind of trap and vulnerability is a con. And if that sounds harsh, good. Because that little voice in your head telling you, maybe I'm too much, that voice didn't come from nowhere. It came from someone who made you feel like having needs was a character flaw. Let's fix that. The dirty truth about attachment styles is this: most people don't know theirs, and even fewer understand the impact it has on every choice they make in love. You're not just bad at relationships. You're running outdated emotional software and blaming yourself every time it crashes. The book doesn't just describe the three attachment styles, secure, anxious, and avoidant. It exposes them like emotional mugshots. These styles don't just influence how you text back or plan vacations. They define how you feel loved, how you interpret silence, and why some relationships feel like home, while others feel like hostage negotiations. Let's talk about anxious attachment. If that's you, you already know what I'm about to say before I even say it. You know the panic when a text goes unanswered. The loop of thoughts that start as maybe they're busy and end with they're probably dead or cheating or both. Anxious types don't just want closeness, they need it. Not because they're weak, but because their nervous system was trained to expect inconsistency, and so it's always on high alert. Their emotional radar is so finely tuned, it picks up every flicker of change, every delayed reply, shift in tone, every K instead of okay. The book shares stories like Emily's, who seemed totally composed until she met David, a walking red flag with great hair and no intention of showing up emotionally. Her entire personality collapsed under the weight of his inconsistency. That wasn't dysfunction, that was her attachment system going DEFCON 1. Her thoughts, feelings, and behavior all bent around one mission: keep him close. If he'd been a secure partner, none of that chaos would have happened. Her nervous system would have relaxed, her brain wouldn't have turned into a conspiracy podcast, and she wouldn't have spent months pretending to be someone else in chat rooms just to feel near him. Then there's the avoidant type. These people believe needing someone is a sign of weakness, and getting too close is an invitation to lose control. They'll do anything to preserve their independence, even if it means sabotaging the very relationship they claim to care about. They use something called deactivating strategies, nitpicking your flaws, comparing you to exes, flirting with others, ghosting after intimacy, keeping secrets, and saying, "I'm not ready to commit," while still enjoying all the benefits of being in a relationship. That's not self-protection, that's emotional cowardice dressed up as stoicism. Avoidants often mistake self-reliance for emotional strength, but here's the kicker: when avoidants are put under enough pressure, death, trauma, a real crisis, all that independence collapses and they break down just like everyone else. Their emotional machinery is still intact. They've just spent their lives trying to suppress it. And when they can't anymore, the mess is catastrophic. The studies cited in the book show this clearly. When distracted, avoidants react just as intensely to attachment-related threats as anyone else. Their emotional detachment is a mask, not a mutation. And somewhere in the middle, or should I say at the top of the emotional food chain, are secure folks. The ones who can say, "I love you," without having a meltdown. The ones who answer your texts, make you feel safe, don't punish you for having needs, and don't confuse calm with boredom. These are the unicorns, the people who are emotionally literate, responsive, and consistent. And let me be clear, secure doesn't mean perfect. It means regulated. It means safe. It means they won't treat you like a problem to be solved or a project to be managed. Here's the tragedy though. Because so many people are stuck in anxious or avoidant patterns, secure individuals are often dismissed as too nice or not exciting enough. That's because drama addicts don't know what stability feels like. They've confused adrenaline with affection. But peace isn't boring, it's healing. And if calm feels foreign to you, it's because you've never been loved right. Attachment styles are not your identity, they're a starting point. You're not locked into anxious spirals or avoidant shutdowns forever, but you can't change what you won't confront. If you keep dating people who punish you for being open, or if you keep running from people who see you clearly, that's not fate. That's a pattern. And patterns don't change just because you're tired. They change when you stop lying to yourself about what love is supposed to feel like. So don't use your attachment style as an excuse. Use it as a weapon, a guide, a filter, because when you know your wiring, you stop begging people to read your emotional manual. You start choosing people who already speak your language, and that, more than anything, is the key to love that doesn't feel like war. Key takeaway: you can't fix what you won't name. Knowing your attachment style isn't about boxing yourself in, it's about setting yourself free from years of unconscious emotional habits. Secure love isn't rare. You've just been chasing storms and calling them home. Favorite quote: although we all have a basic need to form close bonds, the way we create them varies. Breaking up isn't always hard to do. You ever been in a relationship where everything feels fine on paper, like they're nice, they've got a job, they don't kick puppies, but for some reason, your soul feels like it's slowly leaking out of your body one awkward dinner at a time? Welcome to the wonderful world of attachment mismatch, where even secure people can get dragged into emotional purgatory by the wrong partner. And if you're insecure, it's like playing emotional roulette with your sanity on the line. Let's rip the bandage off. Not all love is worth saving. Some love will gaslight you, bleed you dry, and make you doubt if you were ever lovable in the first place. And the real kicker? You'll still convince yourself to stay because it's not that bad, but it is that bad. Because any relationship that requires you to betray your own needs in exchange for crumbs of affection isn't love, it's emotional malpractice. The book lays it out like a psychological crime scene. The secure attachment style should be the gold standard, consistent, emotionally responsive, grounded, and when it works beautifully. But even the most secure person can spiral when matched with someone who treats intimacy like a death sentence. Because when one person's idea of closeness is, let's talk about our future, and the other's is, let's not text for 3 days and blame it on being busy, that's not a difference in love languages, that's a total system failure. They call it the secure buffering effect. If you've ever dated someone secure after years of rollercoaster chaos, you know what it feels like. It's like stepping off a treadmill that's been set to emotional cardio for 5 years. Suddenly, you're being heard. Your texts are returned. There's no guessing game, no mixed signals, no decoding cryptic replies like they're ancient runes. And yet, many people still run from it. Why? Because when chaos is all you've ever known, peace feels like a threat. The book shows how secure individuals can actually upgrade their partner's attachment style over time. But here's the twist: that only works if the partner isn't actively sabotaging the relationship. You can't secure someone who's addicted to avoidance like it's their personality. You can't soothe someone who thinks needing anyone is a weakness. That's not your job. You're not their therapist, their mother, or their emotional punching bag. It gets even darker when we dive into what happens when the abnormal becomes the norm. You know the type, the ones who casually degrade you in front of friends, who act irritated when you express emotion, who withhold affection like it's a reward for good behavior. These are not quirks, these are warning signs. When emotional abuse gets dressed up as personality, it becomes invisible, and then it becomes normalized. You don't even notice you're bleeding until you're too weak to stand. The authors introduce us to stories like Marsha and Craig, where one person is anxious, the other avoidant, and the whole thing plays out like a slow-motion car crash. Marsha wasn't broken, she was normal. She came from a loving family. She had healthy relationships before Craig. But Craig's emotional unavailability turned her into someone she didn't recognize. That's the power of attachment trauma. It doesn't just break your heart, it rewires your brain. And here's where the book gets real. Sometimes love just isn't enough. You can love someone and still need to walk away, because if the relationship forces you to constantly compromise who you are, that's not love, that's erosion. The authors talk about people who adjust to their partner's avoidant behavior by lowering their expectations. And sure, it reduces conflict, but you're not building a relationship. You're building a cage and calling it compromise. Leaving a dysfunctional relationship isn't weakness, it's clarity. But most people wait too long. They wait for a sign, for the partner to change, for things to get just a little better. But all that waiting does is teach your nervous system to tolerate neglect. One day, you look up and realize you're just a shadow of who you used to be. And for what? For someone who couldn't even say, "I'm sorry," without a 3-hour argument and a week of silent treatment. It's not enough to understand your attachment style. You have to protect it. Secure people aren't immune to toxicity. They're just faster at recognizing it. If you're secure, your job is to guard your peace like it's sacred. If you're anxious, your job is to stop mistaking anxiety for affection. And if you're avoidant, your job is to admit that your independence has become a weapon, and it's wounding everyone who tries to love you. You deserve more than a relationship that kind of works. You deserve love that makes you feel safe, seen, and strong, not small. And if you're in something that feels more like endurance training than connection, let that be your exit sign. Key takeaway: not all love is healing. If you have to shrink, guess, or self-abandon just to keep the peace, you're not in a relationship, you're in a performance. And no amount of therapy, self-help, or excuses can justify staying in a place that teaches you to hate your own needs. Favorite quote: when abnormal becomes the norm, our minds trick us into staying for the wrong reasons, and leaving feels like betrayal, not of them, but of ourselves. Communicate like a pro. You ever meet someone who says, "I'm not good at communicating," and wears it like a badge of honor? Like it's cute. Like ghosting your partner or turning every conversation into a courtroom drama is a charming little quirk. It's not. It's a cop-out. It's a refusal to grow up emotionally. And in relationships, that costs more than just comfort. It costs connection, trust, and sanity. Communication isn't just talking. It's not just yelling louder or writing long, sad texts at 2 a.m., hoping your partner reads between the lines. Communication, done right, is an emotional scalpel. It cuts through assumptions, past trauma, and passive aggression. But here's the twist: most people suck at it. Not because they're dumb, because they've been trained to suppress their needs, fear rejection, and prioritize not rocking the boat over saying what they really mean. This book doesn't just say, talk more. It lays out how to do it like a functional adult, not a broken robot running on avoidant programming. The authors give us 5 core principles, not fluffy ideas, actual tactics. The first: wear your damn heart on your sleeve. That doesn't mean you cry at every dinner or write poetry in arguments. It means stop hiding behind sarcasm, silence, or fake chill energy. Tell your partner the truth about how you feel, clearly, calmly, and without apologizing for it. The second: focus on your needs. That's right, you're allowed to have them. You're allowed to say, "I need to feel important," or "I want to feel safe," not "you never text me," or "you're selfish," but "when I don't hear from you, I feel forgotten." See the difference? One sparks defensiveness, the other opens a door. And this book hammers home the idea that your needs are not a burden. If you've got an anxious attachment style, that sentence alone might change your life. The third rule: be specific. "You never listen to me" is vague and useless. Try. "When I'm talking and you're on your phone, I feel dismissed." Clarity forces accountability. You're not dropping emotional riddles and hoping your partner magically solves them. You're giving them the user manual to your soul. And if they don't read it, that's information too. Fourth, don't blame. If your communication style sounds like a roast session, you're not resolving conflict, you're auditioning for a breakup. You don't fix anything by making someone feel small. You fix things by making them feel seen. And fifth, be assertive and unapologetic, not aggressive, not passive, assertive. Your happiness, your boundaries, and your emotional well-being are valid. Say it like you mean it. If that scares someone off, let them run. That's not your person. The authors don't stop at principles. They dissect common communication screw-ups and show how to rewrite the script. Instead of protest behavior like ghosting, guilt-tripping, or silent treatment, you're taught how to speak up in a way that actually gets you somewhere. There's even a section where they break down how secure people fight, not less, but better. Secure people don't avoid conflict. They use it to grow. They don't say, "You always do this." They say, "This specific thing hurt. Can we talk about it?" And here's the transformative idea that changes everything. Fighting isn't the enemy. Avoiding fights is. Conflict, when handled right, is connection in disguise. It's a chance to be seen deeper, to reaffirm your bond. When couples argue with curiosity instead of combativeness, it doesn't drive them apart, it brings them closer. Attachment science backs it up. The healthiest relationships aren't argument-free, they're repair-friendly. Want to know if your partner's worth the emotional investment? Watch how they respond when you bring up a tough topic. Do they deflect, blame, roll their eyes? Or do they lean in, try to understand and help you both win? You don't need months to figure someone out. Just one good conversation using these tools and their reaction will tell you everything. This book doesn't coddle you. It teaches you how to stop self-sabotaging, how to stop reading signs like a relationship psychic, and how to stop settling for partners who can't handle a basic discussion without retreating into guilt trips or cold silence. It even gives you practice scripts, real ones. You don't have to wing it. You can walk in ready, calm, and clear. And if you're still sitting there thinking, "But I'm just bad at this," guess what? That's not a personality trait, it's a skill gap, and skill gaps can be closed. You don't get to skip out on growth just because feelings are hard. If you want intimacy, you're going to have to talk like you mean it, period. Key takeaway, conflict isn't the problem. Your inability to navigate it with clarity and care is. Effective communication doesn't just save relationships, it filters out the people who were never emotionally ready for you in the first place. Favorite quote, "By spelling out your needs, you are making it a lot easier for your partner to meet them. He or she doesn't need to guess whether something is bothering you or what that something is." Conclusion. You've been lied to. Not once, not twice, but over and over again. Lied to by rom-coms, your emotionally unavailable ex, your healing era, and every Instagram quote that told you love is supposed to hurt. That it's supposed to be a roller coaster. That if it doesn't feel like anxiety, it must not be real. You were trained to normalize chaos, to glorify inconsistency, to think the chase is the relationship. But here's what attached screams through every page. You don't need to earn love. You just need to stop settling for scraps and calling it gourmet. This isn't just a book about relationships. This is a demolition of the delusions you've built around them. Because what Dr. Amir Levine and Rachel Heller gave us isn't just insight, it's a damn exit plan. An escape route out of performative dating, emotional starvation, and the exhausting mental gymnastics that come with chasing people who were never emotionally available in the first place. They hand you the playbook. They tell you how your attachment style formed, how it plays out in your adult relationships, why you're always attracted to the exact type of person who triggers your deepest wounds, and how to break that loop before it breaks you. They explain why wanting connection doesn't make you weak, why avoidance isn't mystery but trauma avoidance with a buzz cut, and why secure isn't boring. It's the emotional stability you've been calling too easy because you were conditioned to equate pain with passion. This book dares you to stop spiritualizing dysfunction. It doesn't want you to manifest someone back. It wants you to recognize when someone never had the capacity to meet your needs in the first place. It doesn't want you to decode someone's mixed signals. It wants you to stop settling for people who can't speak the language of consistency. It doesn't want you to fix your anxiousness in isolation. It wants you to find a partner who makes you feel secure, so the anxiety has no reason to exist. The biggest plot twist? You don't have to do this alone. The path forward isn't found by becoming so independent that you don't need anyone. It's found in choosing the right people to need. People who don't punish you for having emotions. People who meet you with clarity, not confusion. People who don't make you audition for the role of worthy of love. If this book did its job, you're leaving it with sharper boundaries, deeper self-respect, and the brutal understanding that most of what you thought was love was actually you performing emotional CPR on a partner who never wanted to breathe. So here's the deal. Read the book. Highlight the pages that feel like a punch in the gut, then live it. Because healing your attachment style isn't just about finding the right partner. It's about finally becoming the version of yourself who refuses to make a home out of emotional chaos. And if someone ever tells you you're too much, look them dead in the eye and say, then go find less. That's not ego. That's knowing who the hell you are. And that is the real attachment upgrade.